Hey, welcome to the 433rd episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by patrons Merlin Hormozi and Peter Sproit. I'm Oren Kaplan.
And I'm Matt Unlow. Today we've got Nick Grisham and Morgan Bond on the show. They're a directing duo out of Austin, Texas. We talk a ton about commercial production in general, and also they have kind of a unique situation where they run and own their own commercial production company in their local market, but also are repped nationally on the West and East Coasts. So it's kind of an interesting and unique sort of build where they're kind of doing the homespun indie thing and then also the big reps thing all at once. So if you're curious about either sides of that equation, if you're looking to kind of start something on your own or get some help from the outside, this is a pretty meaningful conversation.
Yeah, and they're repped by True Gentleman TV, which is our friend Jordan Brady's company.
Yes, if you like references to Jordan Brady,
you will love this episode.
So
if you're Jordan Brady,
you're going to love this one. Yeah,
Oren right now.
Yeah,
or just Venmo me, maybe $5. Venmo Matt $3. I think kind of seems about right.
Yeah, sure.
I'm at Oren-Kaplan, not Oren Kaplan.
Mm-hmm.
I made that mistake before, and it cost me a lot of money. Anyhow, yeah, no, this is a really fun conversation. We talked also about so much about previs. They're like big into Unreal and kind of figuring out the shoot before the shoot. They're also married and they kind of split their jobs up. So it's fun. I learned a lot from this conversation. I think it's cool. I think Austin is just like kind of blowing up right now with production. Mm-hmm. Even though I guess it's still kind of known as a smaller market. But my buddy, Logan Gilmore, EP at Art Class, he lives in Austin and he's always like, you got to come shoot in Austin. It's the best place in the world. So feel free to hit us up at justshootitpod on Instagram or email us justshootitpod@gmail.com and let us know if you care about Austin.
Anyway, this is a great conversation that I can't wait to get into as soon as we tell you about our Patreon, patreon.com/justshootitpod.
Yeah, there's so many people in their cars right now. They're like, wait, how can I go help out this podcast that I love and listen to on the way to set?
So much value I get out of this show. I need to pull over and
just give them $1 or $2 to help pay their bills.
Patreon.com/justshootitpod.
Got it. Wrote it down. Thank you. And you know what? Email us. Reach out to us. I've had a few good Instagram conversations. I talked to a gentleman from South Africa the other day. That was just like we were just sharing war stories about production. So we love to hear from you. I'm on Instagram at OKaplan. Matt is on Instagram at OKaplan.
I'm at Mr. Matt Unlow. Anyway, let's hop into our conversation with Nick and Morgan.
Nick and Morgan, the directing duo. We met you guys through Jordan Brady. Jordan Brady, for the two of you that don't know, is a friend of ours who's a director who has a podcast, Respect the Process. And he also has a production company called True Gentleman Entertainment. True Gentleman Club?
Industries.
True Gentleman Industries. And you guys are a directing duo that's on his roster. But you also have your own production company. And
those are all true things. And there it's not standard. So yeah, it's a little confusing.
So what kind of stuff do you guys direct and how do you guys connect with Jordan?
The kinds of stuff that we direct are commercials exclusively.
Like any genre?
Yeah, so we say it's food, family, and VFX. Nick kind of got his start in post-production, and I really like working with kids. Just kind of some, when we were first starting out, we were doing a lot of like social stuff, and so there was like the TikTok transitions that was like super popular. So we
I started internally at GSD&M
cool.
editing the advertising agency, which is a great way to just be in the conversation when they're like, oh, we don't really have money for like a real director, we just have this social spot, and then you're like be in the room.
Yeah. Nick, he was like sitting on his little rolly chair and he sort of slowly turns around and he's like, hello.
If you need someone to shoot these,
I'm available.
Yeah. And they said, oh, but you got to be a business. I said, wouldn't you know it? I am.
And then we went home that night and Googled how to become a business in Texas.
You said LegalZoom.com has been covered.
Wait, so Morgan, were you guys married at this point?
We were dating. We were dating for like 4 years. So we kind of knew.
We met in college at the University of Texas Film School.
In Austin?
Yeah.
In Austin, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Hook'em Horns. Is what
Hook'em
Horns.
There you go. Yeah,
You paid all that money. You could have just read Rebel Without a Crew.
Sure.
Like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Cool. So you guys were filmmaking. So were you guys working together at that point?
You know, we were. I, at the time, really wanted to be a gaffer. So I was like committed to joining the union right after school and was kind of working, you know, trying out DPing, trying out all the little roles, but I had zero interest in directing, and Nick kind of like had to drag me into a directing.
Yeah, in college I would direct and she would DP, and now I kind of DP all the stuff, and then she's talking to talent. We kind of like inverted roles as we
aged.
Got through it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like it. I mean, I like
we
it
basically started, co-directing, I guess, producing, doing all the roles as you have to do from the beginning. So I think the way that we distribute responsibilities when we're working is pretty unique to us.
Mm-hmm.
So you're still DPing all your own stuff?
Yeah, he does.
And then do you ever, Morgan, go like, ooh, we should get a car DP for this one?
You know, it's happened. We don't do many cars, but definitely there are some projects where I'm like, oh, maybe we should get another DP. But something that we've done more recently is we'll get like a really good camera operator. And Nick will, ask their opinion. And I don't know how ethical that is, but
it's super ethical.
I mean,
they have great opinions.
Yeah, I often don't take their opinions.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Your job is to choose the best. Is to choose the best opinion. You don't need to have one.
There is a difference, though, between hiring a DP and picking their brain and hiring a camera operator and picking their brain, for sure, right? Have you thought about like hiring a DP?
I mean, we definitely have done it before. It's not.
You just don't care for it. It's not your first choice.
I feel like since we've been pre-vising in Unreal, which I know we wanted to get into later, but I do feel like a lot of those big DP decisions that you would want, like someone who shot a million things in the same style, like to give you that advice. And then you've already like kind of shown the animatic people, and it's got to be like a lot of those decisions have to be made for you.
Sure.
Maybe would be like tech scouting with the DP.
Yeah.
I feel like a really quality gaffer and a really quality
I think to me like a DP though, to me like them, like the camera angle and camera movement is like very low on the list of like what they're bringing. To me, that number one, they're bringing lighting, and number two, they're bringing an ability to like read the room, read the pace that we need to move in, and get their crew to be building kind of beautiful lighting and environments that allow us to move the camera in the way we want. They like understand the client, that this is a client that wants exactly the storyboards and they're not going to go super off and like it's not going to be too contrasty, or this is a director that might decide they want to flip the whole world. So light in a way, like to me, that's what a really excellent DP brings, is just kind of like really strong lighting sensibility. And like, because even when I worked with the best DPs I've ever worked with, they're always like, okay, so where do you want the camera?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say I think Nick is a very good lighter. And I think just there being two of us, it's like really great to be able to talk to your DP like all day, every day for 10
for the entire
days before the shoot.
Yeah.
And you can't discount that you were a gaffer. Like that's kind of amazing.
Yeah. And I think to your larger point, there's two of you.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true. Like she's off, like with the talent, like in between, like building camaraderie. And I am like there with the crew, So I think there's still like, I think to your point, Oren, is that, you do kind of need two people, because there needs to be one person that can step in and out from client or with talent, and things still need to be moving.
Yeah. Someone has to go kiss some butt.
Yeah.
And someone has to go point a camera.
Yeah. I mean, Nick, like after our first shot, Nick will come in and do the hi, how's it going thing. But like
mhm.
then Nick is off the entire time, and I'm the one who kind of if we need to explain something or whatever to the agency, I definitely am the one to go talk to the people, do the thing.
And it's good because I kind of need to be facing away from the clients. I feel like when I hear some of the notes, and if I hear them straight, like with full eye contact, I won't get hired back.
Yeah, sure.
So you need to grow like a giant beard, so like they can't see your like dimples, like stress, like the tension stored in your cheek. As you're like, yes, we can do one where there's bigger smiles.
Sure.
Great idea.
More.
We've had reps on the podcast and we kind of talked about this, but I'm just curious. Let's say you live in kind of a smaller market and you have a production company and you want to get access to boards, right? You want to get access to agencies that have potential jobs so you can pitch yourself or other directors, you know. So you hire a person called a rep. Do you pay this person on a monthly basis? Do you pay them a percentage? How does it work?
Both.
So
there's a retainer? You pay them like a retainer, a monthly retainer, and then they get a percentage of every job that you do in their region, unless it's a non-commissionable account. So like accounts that you would have before you've hired the rep, you could like outline and say,
that they don't say, hey, I've been doing work with Fruit of the Loom for the last 20 years. You don't get a taste.
But if you got a Toyota commercial and then off of that good, like it went well and you just keep getting like 10 more Toyota commercials and the rep is not involved, you still have to pay the rep a percentage.
Yeah. So if the rep, like if that account is eligible for commission, it doesn't matter if you like continue forever and ever with them, you still pay commission on that account. Yeah.
And then and they probably get around 4% of the budget, something like that, right?
Yeah. Around 4%.
Okay. So off like $100,000 job, they would get like $4,000.
Yeah. So it's usually higher on post.
Okay. And then do they get, let's say you have a retainer. Let's say that retainer is $2,000 a month or $1,000, whatever it is, like somewhere in that range. If you bring in a job that pays them $4,000, does that pay for the retainer? Or the retainer's on top of?
Yeah, the retainer is on top of it.
It's not a minimum guarantee.
It's not like a prorated thing.
Because they do. I mean, they're submitting you for way, way, way more jobs than what you're getting, obviously, and it's a lot of
Oren
work.
and Matt.
I know. Well,
we get
every single job they submit for.
We just stopped submitting, and we still get jobs. So but I guess for our listeners that have their own production companies, it's not just you can't just get any rep, right? You can't just go to Remedy reps and say, hey, here's $1,500 a month or whatever it is. Please rep me. They have to want you to.
They have to.
It's a little bit of a catch-22 because you can't really hire on talent until you have a rep and you have like a sales, pipeline. But then no one really wants a production company that only has like one or two directors on it, limited reel or like only, spec work.
Yeah,
so
when we first met Julie,
it can be challenging to find your first rep for sure.
When we first met Julie, it was like, no.
Yeah, she was like, that's cute.
Yeah.
And then several years later, we're like, hey.
So what was the difference then? Like what had changed?
Yeah, so we were like directing she had recommended that we get on somebody's roster. Like I had met her at a GSD&M, like diversity summit or something, and I basically had a conversation where I was asking these same questions, and I was like, so how would a production company go about getting this rep? And she had given me a lot of really great advice, and really took a lot of time chatting with me, and so she referred me to another production company, and we directed on that roster for about a year, and then we were getting a lot of work. So once that contract ended, she agreed to come on and rep our production company. So we've been working with her for like a year.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on like how many similar companies they have in that region. Like it would not benefit her or us for her to represent several companies in the same city that all look the same.
To your point, she's still sure, she's on retainer, but like the commission is the real money, basically.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and she's putting out all of her companies, and she has she reps 8 companies in this region, so she has a lot of other directors that she's really pushing for too. So yeah.
So then walk us through, you've got your own company
Mm-hmm.
for which region specifically? For like, is it sliced into the Southwest or how does it?
Yeah, so it's the like South Central region.
So then that makes sense. And then through your rep, you met Jordan and you said, hey, we want to expand our auspices to a West and the East Coast representation as well, but still keep the work that you were doing basically in Austin separate from that. Is that how you sliced the deal?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, we really, being in such a small market, you know, and we were on another roster in this market, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense because we already have a lot of clients here and we're pretty established.
It's a lot of the same relationships.
So
wait, remind us what city you're in?
We're in Austin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Austin, Texas.
So Austin has become kind of a big production town, no?
It's growing.
Yeah.
Over the last
They're
couple
shooting
years.
1923 here, so that's cool.
There you go. I love Austin, in particular, the film community, more than any town I've ever been to. People are like, come shoot in Austin. The crews are great. Like,
we love Austin. We will never leave here. We think it's so great. It is such a small market that like if you're not a nice and like easy to work with and fun person, like it's really difficult to work. You know, you're not going to be able to find, there's not like multiple crews that you can like get in with and, you know, whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You just have to
be chill. Everything's all right.
I do think that the networking like events have slightly different culture. Like sometimes when people move here from LA, and then I'm like at like the Austin Cinematography meetup thing, and everyone's
the eggshell white business cards.
It's kind of the opposite. I mean, like people will come in and they'll be like, okay, I have 5 minutes to meet everyone, and I got to tell them all the stuff that I ever did so they think I'm cool and impressive. Which is maybe the wrong way to go about networking in general.
Sure, yeah, you're just describing someone who sucks. Is
that a bad thing to do?
I've seen it several times. Maybe it's just a nervous new person.
Enough about me. How can you help me? Is my
little line. But Austin, like the people here are, you know, everyone kind of just knows each other, and so.
Yeah, you find out like secondhand that someone that you just met and talked about something totally, you know, mundane. It's like the biggest guy in town. And you're like, oh, he never would have told me himself.
Sure. Yeah.
What, Beto O'Rourke?
That was Beto?
Yeah.
So cool. So, okay. I mean, Austin's not that small a market though, right? I don't know. Maybe I just feel
I think
I'm biased because I've heard of a lot of
commercials,
shooting there recently.
It kind of is. I mean, it's definitely become more of a destination. Like people are more interested in coming here to shoot. But yeah, definitely like more stuff going on in Dallas, and
there's cool agencies here that do a lot of big work. But I think a lot of the times the big shoots still end up moving to LA.
Yeah.
So
is it a right to work state?
Mm-hmm.
It is. Yeah.
So I feel like those states are getting a lot of action recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also like just kind of looking at the portfolio section of Camlock Films, right? Like it's a great mixture of like, you see some Travelocity, some Yeti, Fruit of the Loom. I keep making jokes about that. Grubhub. You know, there's like national brands, and then some spots that I think are probably a little bit more Austin specific, right? I know Yeti is based in Austin, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so to me, that's the sweet spot when it comes to a smaller market, quote unquote smaller market. Is like if you can do national brands and still keep the lights on with, you know, business owners who you know, right, who are based in Austin, and you can get like more access. Those spots maybe mean a little bit more to a slightly smaller company, even though they're still doing millions of dollars in revenue. That's perfect, right? Like if you're in a market where the industry, just like the need for commercials is too small to support you, that's when it becomes a problem, right? But like you two are broadcasting from your home. You own many hats. Your doors are nice. I'm projecting, but it seems like you have like a nice life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, I think the pandemic has reminded us that, especially as Oren and I work more and more in commercials, and less in scripted, you can live anywhere, and it's really about whether or not the market supports the lifestyle that you want or not.
It's all about how good the breakfast burritos are.
We do breakfast tacos.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've got like 15 home states in the region now, so we've got.
Yeah, we get it. Okay, you guys are pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, so, and are you guys DGA?
No, specifically not DGA. But I don't know. Everyone tells us that we should wait as long as we can to join the DGA.
So I can think of one person who told you that for sure.
And I've heard multiple people tell me these things. Okay,
because you can join, right? Like through True Gentlemen, you guys could join.
Yeah. I don't think that joining's really it's like what happens the moment you do join is you gotta make sure that you have a runway set up.
Yeah. So
like Camlock is not DGA, so we would.
Right. Yeah. So just to unpack that for people who aren't reading between the lines necessarily, basically, when you go DGA, it oftentimes precludes you from a lot of that non-union work where the spots were, for whatever reason, not DGA friendly, like mostly for budgetary reasons, but who knows, other stuff as well could be. Right. So you don't want to like cut off, maybe those clients that you've worked with for a long time that just aren't interested in doing union work. You just lose that business basically. Right. And so your point about runway is like, oh, you need to be able to backfill that need somehow, basically.
I will just kind of push back on that a tiny bit because the DGA, look, SAG, if you have a broadcast spot, it becomes very expensive. Matt and I are both married to SAG actors, and we see that they're getting checks from TV shows they were in 10 years ago. Like you have to pay them forever if you want to use the stuff that they're in. And it can be a lot of money, especially if it's on TV worldwide, all that stuff. IATSE is obviously, it's expensive to work with them. You have to give if you pay a grip $700, now you have to pay them an extra 40% for their health and welfare, right? So you take a budget that worked at $150,000, and now to get the exact same thing, you need $250,000 without any difference in personnel, except, maybe slightly more experienced crew, right? DGA is a totally different thing. DGA, you have to pay the DGA fees for the director. And I think if you're a duo, I'm assuming you only have to pay them once, but I can be wrong.
That's what I've heard.
And they are about $2,300 per shoot day. You have to pay the DGA, fringes, which is the health and pension and welfare stuff for the first AD. And then if you have over a certain number of extras, I think you need a second AD and a second. But like at most, you're paying like 4, maybe 5 fringes on 5 people, and it's like at the end of the day, it's just a few $1,000s, and like if let's say you have a rate, let's say, just throwing out random numbers, like $10,000 you're going to get to direct this thing, you could even eat that and
say 20. Say 20. The Scott Feinstein numbers,
sure,
right?
I think those are LA, New York numbers. But let's say you get $20,000 to direct something, and you just eat that fee yourself. So now you're at $17,500. It's still not that bad for what you get back, which is the best health insurance in the world for you, your spouse, your kids, your all the whatever you want, plus all the other perks that come with it, plus a pension, plus all these other things. So it's
not forcing them to.
Somebody saw Twisters at the DGA this weekend. Is what we're saying.
I mean, I would have preferred to see it in 4DX, but at the DGA, it was free.
You should have. It was great.
But my wife splashed water on me during the tornado scenes.
She sighed very loudly in the.
But for you guys, since you own the production company, your work. I mean, you maybe work with other companies, but the main companies you work with is your own company, Camlock, and Jordan's company, which is already DGA. You could set up that runway. Like your client doesn't care. Like if you have a $200,000 budget, they don't care how you spend this $2,500. as
Yeah.
a direct like DGA fee. They it doesn't matter to them. They don't have to be a signatory. You're the signatory. So I think DGA is the one union that is kind of easier to work with. I mean, they can be pretty strict about the jobs you do, but
yeah, and I think that for us, even if it's $2,000 a shoot, that's an insane amount of money to pay for insurance if we do like 2 or 3 shoots a month.
Yeah, I guess if you look at it that way.
Yeah, you'd have to be bringing in more work because you're DGA. But then if those shoots are for sure union, and then our company's not a union company.
Right, but you can be like an art class. They'll do full union, just DGA, just SAG. I mean, we've all kind of mixed and matched unions and stuff.
Yeah, you kind
We've definitely done
just because you're DGA
SAG shoots, because a lot of GSD&M and some other agencies we've worked with are signatories, so you kind of have to. But yeah.
Anyway.
There's a lot to learn about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know much about
That's
it.
definitely Morgan's domain.
Well, I think we can move on to kind of the domain that is one thing that's really unique about you guys, which is, and kind of how Jordan, I think I heard him talk about you when you did his filmmakers retreat. Where did you guys, was that you guys that kind of did a previs in like one of the exercises?
We did, yeah. Well, so, okay, he had given us like, like boards, like agency boards on the first day.
Yeah.
And
just to rewind a second. So Jordan does a commercial filmmakers retreat in Joshua Tree, right?
Yeah, it's like a director's.
I think it's 12 or 15 people.
Yeah, it's the commercial directing film school hosts a retreat in Joshua Tree.
And I think he's doing it very
he
soon.
was just kind of filling up the last couple spots, I think.
I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, it was really amazing.
What are the 3 best things you got out of it?
Well, we learned that the first call is actually a pitch call where you're kind of pitching your like ideas, and so you should come into that call pretty prepared. And we've always felt like the first call was like the agency telling us. So we kind of have shifted our approach to that first call.
It's a lesson that is hard learned. You're like, oh, I thought that I was just learning what you wanted to do, and then the real pitch is the next call. It's unfair. It's like totally misrepresented. But if you come in hot with like educated guesses on what they're looking for, and like you're pitching, and kind of you can pivot and like
it's like a good opportunity also to soft pitch and like see, are they going to like this idea once we make our treatment? So I think that was a super valuable.
And like examples of how to soft pitch and roll back without looking like you just said like, oh, I see you don't like that. I also don't like it now.
Yeah.
So kind of saying like saying, oh, comedically, like it would be funny if there was an explosion behind them, right? Or is that going too far? And they'd be like, that's going too far. And like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just making sure we're on the same page.
Basically,
good. Glad we see eye to eye. Yeah. I feel like I did that.
I think that was one for sure. And then also, meeting Jordan and just meeting the other filmmakers at the retreat.
Is it true you're not allowed to look at him in the eyes like whenever
it's true.
he's in the room? Okay.
When he's doing his presentations, you can. But as soon as
there is something interesting because it costs a couple of grand, right? You have to fly to LA and go to Joshua Tree, and you're getting stuff, right? You're being put up at a place and eating. And getting a lot of Magic Mind, right? Vitamins.
I think Magic Mind might have been new.
The Magic Mind is great, though.
Is it really?
But so there is something. I remember when I first moved to LA, there was this thing called 101 Spots 101, Group 101 Spots, Group 101 Spots. I think you've never heard of this, Matt? It was like this group you could join. You would have to apply and get in, and I think they accepted like 10 directors a session or something, or 20 directors, and all they would do is help you get scripts from agencies of unproduced commercials, and then you could go shoot them. You have to pay for it, and this was a time when everyone was shooting on 35 for commercial. You would have to hire the crew, go shoot them, but they kind of would help you get the scripts, and then at the end of the session, they would have a showcase to all these production companies.
That's cool.
and show all the spots that their members made. And I remember I went to the orientation because I was like, yeah, I want to make movies and TV, but like I'll do some commercials on the side just for some money, like every idiot that moves to LA. And they just at the orientation, they're like, if commercials is not the number one most important thing in your life, get the hell out of here. And I was like, okay, yeah.
And you did.
But that's kind of lit.
We'll see you guys in
I'm
a
assuming
decade.
Jordan has like a very gentle, nice, welcoming approach to it. But it seems like if you're going to spend some money to go to this thing, you're pretty serious about commercials. So I assume the people you meet there, the other filmmakers, are also not just like dabbling in commercials. They're like putting...
Yeah, a lot of them are very serious about it. Also, a lot of like, there was people who were on rosters where their like production company paid for it and stuff like that.
Or like full-time directors at a brand, like direct to a place.
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, we saw some...
I thought the most interesting part, though, was he has this like...
Those are people who want out.
Yeah.
They're like, my reel is 100% this brand and this brand only. Please
100% Rise mushroom coffee. I'd love to drink something else. Sorry, what were you saying, Nick?
Basically he would give us all boards to spots that he had directed before, so you could see like boards versus the actual spot, how it ended up. But like he had us pitch our version of it, and like getting to see like the ad agency perspective of like seeing someone like punch up a joke and be like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. A mullet would be a good haircut. And then the second guy says a mullet. The next person says mullet. And you're like, it's the obvious punch up, but it was fun. It was a funny punch up the first time. And it's just super unfortunate to be the third guy to say the same punch up joke. So that gave me a lot of perspective.
That's interesting. When I pitch, I do that. I'm like, you guys have probably heard this a million times, but like, I do think there's something interesting in this element. And every once in a while they'll be like, yeah, we that was the whole campaign, idea. And sometimes they'll be like,
the worst is when you pitch a joke that they had to cut for client reasons. That's that. Then I feel like you're accidentally just putting salt in the wound. They're like, we know that would have been.
Well, also, when you pitch on comedy, it's like very easy to like just start giving like 100 obvious pun taglines, and they're like, like our intern came up with better stuff than what you're throwing at us right now.
We haven't really done too much comedy, so I think a lot of our like pitches, I don't know.
We do very like sincere, like high key,
like kids and
happy things, not the gritty brands.
Well, so I want to hear how you blew everyone's socks off with this pre-vis.
Jordan talks about this a lot, but we had gotten boards like the first day, and I was like, okay, we're gonna have to pitch these boards at the end of the shoot. So I like made
he didn't say we're gonna pitch it, but it seemed like
we were gonna be pitching.
Like,
so I made
an InDesign or Google Slides or what?
At the time I was really using a lot of Canva, so we use Canva. I've since moved away from Canva, but now I'm using InDesign.
Yeah, InDesign's still king, but it's not easy to collaborate with, unfortunately.
Yeah, and especially sure.
But yeah,
as a duo,
we're using for that. We were just doing GIFs in Midjourney and stuff like that. But I think it was seeing like us come in with a
like a visual,
a small treatment
element,
like you would with all the slides and stuff.
Most people didn't have like a deck put together, and we had a deck.
I see.
She's very good in school. She doesn't like being unprepared for class.
It's true.
Sure. So now I understand though, and I've seen you guys did some like side by side comparison videos that I saw recently. Now you do everything in Unreal. It sounds like. Walk us through that, how you came to that, what the advantages are, maybe a few of the drawbacks of like doing essentially a shot for shot soup to nuts pre-vis.
Yeah. Why don't I explain it as the layperson, and then Nick can because Nick is really the much more technical person. Okay. Are you ready? Okay. So for every shoot, we try and make a little pre-vis animatic, which is where we go and we make little video game characters of each of our actors. We scan our locations, which you can just use an app called Polycam, and that creates a 3D render of all of your locations. And then Nick is able to take those renders into Unreal Engine and populate it with actors, and we can sit down together and basically storyboard, but going even further than storyboarding and showing exactly how the camera moves, like what it's looking at, what the focal length of the lens is, like every single little piece, and create a video. And then we're able to pull that video into, Premiere, After Effects, or whatever we're planning on using, and actually pre-edit it before we have even shot anything.
Yeah.
Did I explain that right?
That's pre-viz.
That's pre-viz.
I guess the question, so you say
Love
you create the actors, the characters?
So we find metahumans that look similar.
Yeah, I'm using all the Unreal like free assets like metahumans, and then I'll buy $15 of custom clothes so that they look kind of like in the same similar vibe.
And he does like mocap too with his, like, we have the Rococo. Is that what?
Yeah.
You have a Rococo suit?
I don't have a Rococo suit.
Sorry.
I was going to buy one, but then I was like, it's almost close enough if you get a couple iPhones and use Move One or Move AI.
Gotcha. And that's like basically
video to mocap.
Like video.
Yeah, I saw this guy follow Ant Rubenstein on Instagram. He's taking like Olympic footage and putting it in Move AI and taking basically building like a motion capture library of like gymnasts.
Oh,
from just NBC footage.
Wow.
That's interesting.
You think it's questionable? You think it's stealing motion?
I doubt.
Stealing motion.
Yeah, that might be unethical. I'm not sure.
Motion capture.
I'm truly not sure. Yeah. I'm not. I truly don't know.
Yeah.
Uncharted waters. Yeah.
AI's like that.
Yeah. Cool though.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I figure everyone will steal what they can now, and no one will get in trouble for a decade.
Sure.
So Move AI.
But maybe Simone Biles is the Metallica of her day, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Metallica sued Napster and a user who downloaded their album 25 years ago.
She's gonna sue. She's gonna sue.
Yeah. Simone Biles is gonna sue.
That's my flip. It's called the Biles 2. Not allowed to use.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's right. I spent so much money trademarking it. Yeah.
So you act out. So you use Move One. You record yourself doing the blocking. You have you have characters from metahumans that you customize with at least clothing, and you find there's a library of a few different. You can just set the height, weight, skin tone, kind of.
Yeah, there's skin tone for sure. Hair. There's it's like really high fidelity The Sims.
Right.
Which is kind of ideal. And then you can scan like locations when you're there. I've had the intern recently went out and scanned an exterior location I couldn't go to and just sent it back. And also for exteriors you can use the Google Maps API, and you can if it's near a road or anywhere that they've ran their cars by, you can get pretty decent little video game backgrounds of buildings that are going to be, and then you can have the sun be like, okay, August 8th at 8:15 p.m. the sun will be between these two buildings.
So let me ask, because I think I've heard of versions of this before, right? Like that, basically that workflow that you're describing, I think is kind of emerging as like a new previs template.
It's free now.
And it's free now, and but like just as a workflow, I think 10 years from now, 2 years from now, I think that will be close to industry standard, right? But I'm curious about the easier said than done factor of it all, right? Like you say, like, okay, we go to a set and we scan everything, so that's on the location scout rather than tech scout, obviously. So you have a little bit more time, but like having used Polycam a little bit before. Depending on if you walk into a living room that has hard angled furniture and no plants and no ceiling fans or whatever, you get like a pretty pristine scan, right? But anything mushy or anything weird, or if you're rushed even, gets a little funky. So I imagine there's like a fair amount of cleanup. Like what are the pitfalls that where you're like, is this even worth it? Or is it always
And also,
worth
it's a
it to you?
previs, so it's like, it's fine if it's
so it can be
mushy.
kind of mushy. Yeah. So we definitely have run into like, okay, these backgrounds don't look great. And maybe we can't find the exactly right prop that's going to be in the thing. For us, even if we never share it with anyone ever, we've made it and we know what it looks like and we know where the camera's going to go. And a lot of times the crew doesn't care, you know, if you're back. Really, it's like windows are really
Sometimes
hard.
you're 20 hours in and you realize the blocking in your head won't fit in the 15. And you're like, okay.
In the 15-second commercial.
But it's better to find out that the idea you had for how the actors were going to interact, you find that out before you shoot it. Even if like the previs gets thrown away and you do the new idea, I think it's worth it.
I think just to extrapolate an even like broader question from what Matt was saying, like how long does this freaking take?
It takes an amount of time, for sure.
Yeah. Give me the how long does it take for a best case scenario and then disaster scenario?
Best case scenario, I don't know. Probably
best case scenario, it takes you less than to scan. It's pretty easy. So if it's a small location, that takes 10, 15 minutes to like scan it.
I would say it takes a full 8 to 10 hour day to create the environment with relevant animations, relevant props, and like get the things in the room that are going to be there on the day. That's like a full day of work.
Like build it, basically.
And then after that, it's kind of like however long it takes you to kind of figure out the thing that you want to. Because like all the thinking and sitting and looking at the blank page you do if you're reporting it, like you just do that now looking at the computer. And it's just a lot more accurate. And you can, you don't draw something that can't physically be done.
And we haven't had to do it for another director. So I think it's faster for us to do it because Nick is pressing the buttons and he has the vision, and then I can come in and give notes, but it's not like
learning Unreal is not simple. I liken it to like photography is to After Effects. After Effects is then to Unreal. It's just like that much more added complexity.
Right. I mean, it's a video game engine that we basically co-opted to do like previs with.
Yeah.
And there is an easier way. Like before we started using Unreal, we were using Cine.
Cine Tracer, Cine Designer are both in that world.
Aren't those mods on Cinema 4D?
Yeah.
No, so it used to be, I think. Matt Workman, should shout him out. He's done a ton of work on this. Cine Tracer is a video game that runs in Unreal Engine, and it's like a super like kind of the iMovie version of what I'm talking about, which is a great way to get into it. Yeah. Like get on Steam, buy Cine Tracer. You can do a ton of stuff, and you can import your own FBX files, like if you want props and things. But if you want to if you want to really make it for a client level thing, I think Unreal.
Gotcha. Yeah, because he's got like virtual lights already built out and kind of all of that stuff, right?
And like
I think I've seen Instagram ads.
Yeah, and he has like a dolly that you can put right in a crane, and you can set. But I mean, at the end of the day, you still have to light everything. Right. You have to light everything, and you have to. In Unreal, it's very easy to light things in an unrealistic way, right? Like in a way that you couldn't actually light them. So
you could, but you can also do it you can do it like by lumens. If you look up like the maximum output of a sky panel, and you put the sky panel at the right distance, and you say, this is how many like foot candles are coming out of this thing, it will show you.
Right. So then you're like tweaking little light things. And I don't know, I did one thing where we wanted to light the whole thing with quasars or whatever, whatever the Asteris. And I did a previs like in Blender, and it's just like I just spent so much time on the lighting, because I wanted it to be like they wanted these lights to be purple, which is a really hard color to do in light, because you want it to illuminate things, but you also it can't be that bright, or else it starts becoming white, and purple is kind of a dark color. And I just like I guess I don't know. It just seems like it's right. Like it's just so time consuming And maybe if you are a duo, like you can have Nick like off in the dungeon, like working on all this stuff, like creating all these elements and things. But I've personally find it, just like, either it just takes so long to get kind of exactly what you want, or you're just like starting to be like, well, she doesn't have glasses, but this awesome model that has and is in a wheelchair, this right type of wheelchair has the glasses. So we'll just do this. And then like you're like starting to change your approach because of like the 3D models that you find, And so I don't know. I think it's super cool, but it's like, it just depends on the job, like sometimes you're like, God, this would have been so much faster if I just took my AD and took photos of them in the location,
Photo boards.
I mean, we definitely still do like photo boards and video, like I'm sure the side by side you saw was for Whataburger, and we had, we were shooting 4 spots that day, and one of them was like just shot on our iPhone because it was, could have been.
I think whatever gets you the best reference for both the crew and the one thing that I do really like about having like the shots built in Unreal is that you can render them like from when you say action to cut, and not necessarily like just cut in the animatic. And then you can play that, like have the AD with an iPad, and then just show everyone, this is the shot, action, cut. And
this is the whole thing. Yeah.
And then also it's helpful for me, like, or for a producer who's sitting with the agency, who's like, here's the board that we approved and here's the monitor, and it's exactly the same. So everyone is on the same page.
You're not going to get in trouble. This is what we...
And the agency has like definitely given us like editing notes that have changed our approach before we've shot, for better or worse, but most of the time for better. And we're like, wow, everyone's happier, and there's fewer. Pre-pro meeting is way shorter because we're not.
I mean, that's excellent. I mean, to me, it's always for better, even if it's frustrating creatively. Like they're gonna make that decision eventually, and either it's gonna be on the day and cost you time, or in advance, right? Yeah, I guess for me, I'm dreaming of a world where, and maybe I haven't looked at, what is it, Cinetracer?
Yeah, I think it's the name of it.
Yeah. I haven't looked at that in a minute. Maybe that's the tool that I'm really dreaming of. But the analogy of like, kind of like Squarespace is what we need for this sort of work. Like if you just need to put a person in a room and have them move around and keep it super simple, that's fine. But also if you need to crack the code open and recode something and get nerdy and get really specific, you can as well. And I think that there's maybe just a little bit too steep of a learning curve right now for people to jump in. But if you already have, you've got the
like it took. I mean,
you've got
Nick
the advantage.
Was already
though,
like
right?
so involved in post production and so involved in like Cinetracer, like all that stuff before he even started getting into Unreal, and he was working in Blender, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I would have no idea how to do
I think it's really valuable for new filmmakers because you have, you don't have a job every week. You're trying to get a job. You're trying to build a reel. You're trying to, so you have like my very abridged story is during COVID, I kind of learned Blender and started pre-vising everything and doing renders and in COVID, we were all doing these weird shoots where it's like one girl in one room,
Yeah.
And so it was really easy to previs everything. And then I got into this place where I was just getting really busy with actual work. And they're like, hey, we saw those previses you did on Instagram. Like, that's why we hired you. Like, where's our 3D render? And I'm like, guys, I don't have, there's 17 different assets.
You're like, I know a really good storyboard artist.
I just don't have the time to build out. You have 6 different 6-second spots that are all in different locations with different actors. And this person's holding this product that doesn't even exist. I'm going to spend half a day just modeling this thing,
Yeah.
And I just, I guess I kind of, but burned out on it. But also, I never got to Unreal, which I think maybe is kind of built to be a little more intuitive. They're not intuitive, but just faster. I don't have like access to a bigger library.
There's like a timeline, like an editing thing that you can do in Unreal, right?
Yeah, I think Blender has a lot of the same functionality for animatics that you would want that Unreal also does. I buy a lot of stuff in the Unreal marketplace. It's like a free product, but as soon as you get in there, you're like, I need this $20 tree.
Yeah. In-app purchases available.
Yeah, sure.
Nick has spent a lot of video game money.
You're like, our honeymoon was actually virtual.
He built a very beautiful
gazebo in Greece.
wedding altar.
Yeah. If these were real flowers, they'd be even more.
Yeah, it's like, look, you want another bouquet? Another bouquet?
We did at one point make like little digi doubles for us.
We scanned our faces and made, and then for advanced micro devices we work with a lot. They make computer chips, so
AMD.
Microsoft teamed in as a metahuman of myself and had the iPhone doing a facial capture.
People did not like
before
it.
The Vision Pro.
Oh, they're like, can you turn off and be normal now? You don't like it?
It's a cool part.
Yeah, Morgan's like, Nick isn't a real person.
Yeah.
My dog with the facial recognition. That's awesome. Well, so what's what's next for you guys? Are you guys just gonna continue growing the company and be on multiple rosters and slowly take over Texas?
Just trying to do bigger and better and more fun shoots. I feel like in commercials, usually it's like the bigger the budget, the more fun. It's not necessarily always true because sometimes the biggest budget things are the most clamped down creatively. I imagine. I don't know. You can tell me that. But I think every year we've just been growing, and the median budget of the projects we've been doing has been growing. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Also, I mean, we've been doing a lot better creative recently. Like I would say now, I feel like we've exited like the junior creative era of our career and have now started working with some like senior creatives.
Oh yeah. Their titles are better.
Yeah.
The boards are better.
Yeah.
The cars they drive are nicer.
I honestly think that's like, for me, the goal is always to just work with the best creatives. Regardless of the budget, because they just get it,
The spot is cool at the end. You're like, wow, that was cool.
Yeah, and they'll tell the client, hey, we can do that, but it's freaking stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what it boils down to. And I think it can be that blunt, but it doesn't have to be. But I think there's most junior creatives have awesome ideas too, but they don't have the experience or the authority or the skills to mitigate a bad idea, basically, or fight for the stuff that they should or believe in. And those sorts of allies are essential to our work being good.
When you're I created the most interesting man in the world for Dos Equis, and when I tell you that this, woman eating a Whataburger, we got to go in through her eyeball, not through her mouth. That's what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah. I do. I find that the creatives we've been working with recently are extremely competent, and they have bigger opinions, which sometimes, we're trying to navigate it too, like the opinions and the things that we care about. But
yeah, I think as we get on bigger projects, there's more, let's say, conflict, but there's more creatives who are fighting the client for the joke to remain funny. So there's a little bit more kind of bureaucracy because the client is paying for the thing. We're all trying to keep it funny. Your relationship is both with the client and with the agency. Where beforehand it was you had the funny joke originally, client ruined it. Everyone's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
It's low budget. We'll just do it.
Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. You're making me realize my very earliest jobs were all branded content. And so I didn't have any understanding of the commercial world at all. And so for better or worse, I was like, well, I'm the director. Do you know what I mean? My creative opinion is important. That's why you hired me, not understanding how far down the ladder I was. You know what I mean? And then as I learned, I was like, oh, I see. I'm the middle of the sandwich, as I like to say. But I'm pretty actively trying to unlearn some of that, and kind of push back more and remind them that they did hire me and also that we got the job because of
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
pitch.
Well, at least,
Yeah.
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 Or because the budget was right. Yeah. I have the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
journey. When
Yeah.
we did branded content, when you do low budget jobs, they don't really care about them. So you just
Yeah.
do whatever you want. And you're like, I'm a genius. This got 10,000
Yeah.
views. And then, you get kind of pushed down as you get like real jobs where they care about the outcome. But then you have to.
I felt like.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, I was like, I feel like when we were first starting out, we cut our teeth on like Food Lion, and they cared a lot about it, and like we had no creative say in the very beginning, and we were like,
what is Food Lion, like
that's
a grocery store? Or what? I'm not familiar.
And we really
Cool.
enjoyed working with them, and it was a lot of food content and recipe videos and stuff. But yeah, they were the client was like really, really wanted to be involved in every single step.
Our first work was like the smallest jobs at the largest agency in town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
So
mean, that
it was
sounds like kind of a
weird.
legitimate, like a broadcast TV spot, I think Matt and I were like
all
putting
the same
Quiznos
people.
sandwiches in a parody of a Lady Gaga vlog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
starting on spots where like the client and agency like outnumbered the crew.
Yeah.
It was like, we have
Sure.
all of the powerhouse of this huge national team, and the social budget means that we're all going to be there to watch like 5 people put this together. There's a lot of, yeah.
It's your hands in the top-down video.
I'm a SAG-eligible hand model.
It's your iPhone shooting TikTok video.
Let me ask to the group. Actually, I'm bidding a job right now that like it should absolutely be 2 days, and that was the plan initially, and they were like, "Hey, what would it take to do this for 1 day?" And it was like, "Okay, well, you can cut this or that or whatever," and it ended up being, let's just say, essentially an impossible day, right? Like if we were shooting for 14 hours straight, we could make it, but maybe, assuming everything goes perfectly, 14 hours of shooting time, right? So like there's no way economically that makes any sense to make it 1 day rather than 2. The OT alone is just going to bone you. It's not worth it. And that's like with a really like slimmed down plan for coverage. Like it's a fully bad idea. And I found myself struggling to say that in a way that is clear and forthright and not rude.
Yeah, and you're still bidding for the job, so you have to say it in a way where they're not like,
right.
Well, the other director said they can do it in half a day, so
yeah.
I mean, is it? And it's entirely budget related. Like it's not related to.
Yeah, and it's mostly a thought exercise. So I don't think they're gonna present it in any way. But like, there is then the anxiety of like, oh, okay, like money is gonna be a factor in this.
I mean, I feel like I have a little bit of a different perspective because I'm like the bidding producer at my production company, and I would just be like, we'll just cut our budget. We'll do it for less and shoot it for 2 days. Like we're never going to do this in 1 day. It's not an option, but
yeah, it's like, it'll be worse. It'll be a worse product in 1 day, even if you spend all the money, or you split it in 2, it'll be worse because of these different reasons. But which worse is better?
I do often have a lot of agency producers like coming to me and being like, well, we can only really afford to do a 1 day shoot. And I'm like, we got to either shoot less or just make it a lower budget shoot that we shoot over 2 days. And it's just less crew and, whatever, can't afford all of the things. But
yeah,
we're scrappy. I mean,
it is a super common thing, though. I just ran into Tim Nakashi the other day, and he's like, "Are you having this thing where they tell you the budget is one thing and you write the treatment, and then they're like, by the way, the budget is half of what we told you?"
That happened to me very recently. I was like, "What?"
And he's like, "What do you mean?" The problem is that there's some very particular requirements set wise. Like essentially, the location is quite expensive and essential, and so I think that's basically the issue. It's like it's not just like you can't just skinny down the crew and like make it work for two. It's like the set, and there's a few requirements where like if you shoot for 2 days, it's going to be pretty expensive, even if you cut crew and cut corners.
I've had like an agency producer, or not really an agency producer, but a client actually tell me that like they appreciate it if you're like, just say, this is not like, we shouldn't do this.
You won't like it, and they'll feel bad.
And like, I mean, I'm sure that there is another production company who will say that you can do it.
I think Jordan Brady says that a lot. Like, hey, I'm just going to be honest with you. This is like, that whole triangle of like whatever, time, money, quality. I just lost a job.
Triple R's, the real, the resume, and the
revenue.
Yeah.
Those revenue jobs.
I lost the job last week because I was like, there's no way we can shoot this in one day. And the other directors were like, yeah, you can't. We'll do it. We'll make it work. Yeah. I think Gino at art class, he would say, I'm assuming you can't shoot this all in one day, Matt, because it's probably more than one deliverable, like more than one spot.
Yeah.
It's like a whole...
It's 4 spots. It's 2 days.
Gino would say, because I've had this, I'm like, dude, we got to shoot these 3 insane spots in totally different locations with totally different casts in 2 days. Like, I can't make all 3 of them great, And he's like, yeah, just pick the one that you're going to make great.
Sure.
And then, make the other ones as good as they can be. And that's
Yeah. Most of the time, I pick one that is going to be great. And I would say it's even odds as to whether or not that one ultimately is my favorite.
I'm wrong like 80% of the time.
Yeah, at best. Yeah. You're like, shoot. Yeah.
The one I didn't spend any of my brain power thinking about is the good one because I didn't overthink it.
Sometimes that's the one that performs the best. Like one of your least favorite ones is like going crazy online, and the other ones are just like fine.
It does seem like strategy sometimes is like, we need 3 spots.
Yeah.
And there's like 2 great ideas.
Mm-hmm. Like, just cut one, guys. The media is what you're spending all the money on, really.
Yeah.
Anyhow, well, on that
involved.
Uplifting
best of luck to you on your endeavor, your 2-day endeavor.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's going to be fine.
If people want to follow you, you have a kind of wide internet footprint. Is like Camlock Films on Instagram the best place to see?
I would say to see our work, Camlock Films on Instagram is the best place. Because that's a lot of our work, and just
also truegent.tv.
Their Instagram is a lot
Jordan
of our work.
said we can't publish this unless we say truegent.tv 3 times.
Yes. It's actually True Gentleman Industries.
On Instagram, it's True Gentleman Industries.
Yes. He probably honestly posts more than us. So.
Oh, cool. And if you go to True Gentleman Industries on Instagram, you can see the side-by-side video that Matt referenced.
It's true.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Gentlemen.
Side by side there.
Side by side.
And you can see the jankiness. And I'm just like, let's...
But some of it is identical. So is that the...
It's because we scanned the location.
That particular spot was advertising a Fortnite Unreal Engine video game that Whataburger has sponsored.
So the footage, the Fortnite footage is the same in the previs as the actual.
It was pre-made.
So we had... we had access to that map ahead of time, and
Oh, cool.
I mean, some of it's stock footage, so
yeah, there is a hamster on a
hamster
wheel.
But then that was just like the title card that was pre-made, not by us. We didn't make the title card, but we made everything.
That's cool. I love a freaking really high production value title card that I can just slap onto my.
This is cool because it had like a burger that Nick, took the background out of and made it fly through frames. So that's cool.
Yeah,
it was cool. And Nick did a lot of the effects and a lot of the post, and we had
great margins on that one.
Oh my god,
I love Whataburger.
we had a lot of help too.
Cash those checks. Yeah. It's a lot of burgers, guys.
Yeah.
It's a lot of burgers.
Go eat good now.
Awesome. Well, do you guys have a few more minutes to endorse with us?
Unpaid endorsements.
One is kind of more of a concept. I'm embarrassed to say that I get a lot of, is his name Alec Hormozi? Yeah, he like wears like nose strips. He's like jacked. He's got long hair. If you combine Jason Momoa with Gary Vaynerchuk, you get Alex Hormozi, basically. Like just like jacked entrepreneur psych. Anyway, I get a lot of his TikToks lately. But he had like a productivity move that I was like, oh, that's actually really good. He talks about like, he's like, listen, when I make stuff, my companies make more money. That's just the truth, right? And his point is like, when you start, the top of the day is where you're the most creative. And as soon as you have a meeting or something, you get sidetracked. And then there goes those creative opportunities. Oren and I were talking about this offline, just like, oh, like you just need creative time. So one of the things he does is he backfills his day. So rather than setting meetings at 10 a.m. and noon and 3 or whatever, he sets his first meeting at 4. And then the next meeting that comes in, he sets it at 3. And like just so that he has as much unbroken creative time at the top of the day as possible. My second endorsement is a YouTube channel by a creator named Scott Peters, who is like a young British guy, just chronicling his directing career. He just booked his first like big 6-figure commercial spot. It's like a food spot. A lot of cheese melting involved, actually. A lot of VFX.
Are the hardest.
Yeah. It was a lot of squishing, and then some like there was a cheese pull and like a motion control baked potato. Yeah. But anyway, like, it's, he's like a YouTuber for sure, mixed with a commercial director. So the videos are like charming and like a little dry and very relatable for people who care about making commercials. So Scott Peters. Scott Peters. Yeah.
I'll harken back to Matt Workman, because he's on the cutting edge of this, like taking Unreal Engine and kind of like paring it down to just the stuff you need to be a director or DP.
Cool. And what is he, Matt Workman, like on YouTube?
He is, I think, on Instagram. He's Matt Workman DP, and then on YouTube, probably
Matt Workman Virtual Production Cinematography Database. That's his
Cinematography Database. There you go.
Cool.
Number 1, I think, is calling your siblings every day while you're driving in your car.
Oh, I like that.
And I just do it every day. I call people. That's my chit chat time. I know some people listen to podcasts or do other things.
What if you're like a repressed millennial male? What if you don't have any feelings?
What if I don't have any feelings?
Yeah.
I would recommend you first listen to the podcast, then if you have a few more miles to go.
Yeah.
In Texas, everything's like 800 miles away from it.
Like not in the car. I listen to them later on in my life. I listen to a lot of I don't know, just not in the car. The car is my place for calling.
I do like
connection.
That. Yeah.
And then often people will not answer, in which case.
Sure.
Yeah. You text them and you're like, well,
and then happy because you have oh, sorry.
Okay, yeah. What's the second one?
I forgot that. Guys shamed me for my
endorsement. No.
And it's a great endorsement. So there's some incredible podcast that's turned on to it by Blake Benham, our friend of Sawhorse Productions. And it's called Seth Meyers and the Lonely Island. And it's literally Seth Meyers and the 3 guys from the Lonely Island, Andy, Yorma, and Akiva. And they just go through every episode of SNL that they worked on together and talk about how they came up with the digital short. And it's really, really funny. And they talk about, we started with like we're shooting on the mini DV, and we did this, and we didn't have any lights, and we these cops are in the video because they came to stop us, and we asked them if they'll just be in the video. And like the kind of version 1.0 of the digital shorts, like at Lazy Sunday time, was like super. Lauren Michaels was like, "What is this bullshit?" And then they became such a staple, and Dick in a Box, and they talk about every digital short they made, and it's just incredibly fun to listen because it's like
that sounds great.
it's we are of that era, so we know all the technical stuff, and they're like, oh, that's when we learned Pro Tools from Justin Timberlake, and he was like doing this thing. Like, it's just, so it's like nerdy, but also cool. And like, almost every reference they're making,
They're also Bay Area guys. So like,
they're talking about Sacramento all the time.
Sure, they are. Yeah. What up?
Yeah.
So
they're
really
from
Sacramento because in Popstar, Andy Samberg's character in his darkest days goes home to Sacramento. Sacramento represents depression and rock bottom for Andy Samberg.
Yeah, for Greta Gerwig too.
Yeah, sure.
They talked about Hot Rod, that movie, that they just got to make that movie. It was like written for Will Ferrell, and they just like went to some party. And they're like, hey, we got this movie. You want to shoot it this summer? Like all they had done was Lazy Sunday at that point. Like, it's just crazy. They got this giant studio film. My other thing is, like, I talked to my friend Lauren Kaler today, whose husband Grant has been on the podcast before. We were talking about casting. She does a lot of, she's actually an agent for composers right now, but she comes from a casting background. She's casted a lot of unscripted roles. And for a pitch, I'm trying to figure out how to cast fans of certain TV shows and movies. And my idea was like, I'll just go to Facebook. I'll write on my Facebook account, hey, are you a fan of whatever show, Game of Thrones? Like, send me a direct message. And she, it seemed kind of like the obvious way to do it, and maybe talk to some casting directors and see what they think. And she was like, oh no, the way we would do it is like exact opposite. We would look for Game of Thrones fan clubs and groups and organizations, and we would go there and kind of blast those, like spam them, like, hey, anyone that's remotely interested in being on TV to talk about Game of Thrones, click on this link and it'll take them to a form to fill out and put a video of them talking about why they want to do it. And then her team will review all of these, take the best ones, and then pre-interview the people, like do a Zoom call with them. And then of that, they'll bring the best ones to the director. And I was like, wow, sounds like a really effective way to find fans. We work in advertising, so a lot of times we're trying to find a real person that loves Arby's or that loves Kmart or Target or whatever. Like, and it's so obvious when I say it out loud. Like, we'll just go to like where these fans congregate. And obviously, if they are part of a fan club, if they're on Reddit, Target hacks or whatever, then they care enough about Target to be there that they'll can probably speak passionately about it. So I just thought it was an interesting nugget of casting strategy.
Guys, this was great. If you have any questions for us or Nick and Morgan, you can always shoot us an email at justshootitpod@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on social media at justshootitpod, or me at Mr. Matt Enlow.
And I'm on Instagram at okaplan. This episode is edited by Noah Bayshore and produced by him as well, with some producing from Tyler Small. And you're listening to music from the Free Music Archive and the artist Jazar. And we will catch you all next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.